Brooke McPoyle, founder of Musical Breathwork, which is where she brings together her expertise on fascia, sound, and breathwork for optimal human experience. Welcome to the podcast, What If There's a Better Way?
I
Welcome,
am
Brooke.
so grateful to be here. What a cool podcast. What an amazing way to focus a channel. I'm really excited to see what happens with this.
We're gonna find out. Um, do you wanna first start out of kind of where you came from and how your thought developed to what you're now?
It all happened by accident. I was just a 12-year-old girl with like a classic hip problem that really wasn't a big deal. I fell in love with singing. I learned how to sing in the public school system here under somebody named Mr. Gonzalez, who totally changed my life. And I learned the power of deep breathing in order to sing. And to breathe, to belt, you have to shape the breath. And so at a very young age, I fell in love with this ability to sing very loud. And I'd climb trees at the end of my school day, as tall as, as high as I could. And then I could sing like my whole day away. And around the time I was 16, I fell in love with golf. My dad and my brother are extraordinary players. And in golf, you're building momentum from a static motion. So you learn to communicate with your body in an acrobatic way. It's very different than classical, moves. Golf is a leveraged momentum sport, and I'm so small that in order to compete at a high level, I needed to learn how to very efficiently use the leverage that I could create from my frame. So I learned how to train in golf very different
Mm-hmm.
than most. And because of my classical opera singing, there was always this resonance of breath. And I really didn't understand how I could use my breath to regulate my nervous system. I knew how to use my breath to sing. But as I continued to compete in golf and get into higher and higher levels and in gambling, so I played D1 golf for a beautiful university here in Florida called Florida Atlantic University. I had a whole European team. One of my dear friends, Ellie, is actually on the Italian Olympic team.
Wow.
Yeah, we played together in college, and she's just a spectacular player. But in golf, I had a real Achilles heel. I had a real weakness, and that was my putting. And I could hit the ball awesome. I had all the shots in my bags, but my heart rate would become a little out of control when I was about to win. I definitely had an adrenaline issue. I could like throw up on a green before I hit a 2 foot putt. I was very panicked about,
Like
yeah.
actually, like
Yeah. So I would, play
from all
three
the
and a half
nerves,
hours.
yeah.
Yes. So I'd be 3.5 hours into a round and about to, do something spectacular that
Uh-huh.
I've never done before. And I'd get on a green where you're just supposed to hit the ball, this far to make it. And I would panic. So after I had a couple bad situations happen. I had a lot of friends die in the year I graduated college, and I ended up going to all these funerals. And it was somehow between these funerals that I was going to and like me realizing I didn't want to chase this white ball around. Like life was so much bigger than this white ball. I was very much like a spoiled little golf princess in a lot of ways. I was obsessed until I was 21 with where this ball went. And I went to 5 funerals in 5 weeks, and it
Wow.
changed my life. And I just never looked at the world the same. Um, and I really stormed my life, like, took it in another direction and ended up meeting my ex-husband. He was a chiropractor, upper cervical chiropractor. We developed a really beautiful wellness clinic together. I got myself well. I learned so much about the nervous system with him and about how our spine health can really trigger some nervous system issues. I have a fusion in my spine, so
Uh-huh.
it was very enlightening for me to realize some of the chronic stuff I had been dealing with, like my hip since I was a kid, could be fixed structurally. And through the course of making that clinic with him, I was done golf. I was done singing. I had those things were in my past. And when we got a divorce, it was a very graceful divorce. He wanted children, and I wasn't ready for that yet. I thought we were both on the same accord, and we had a very easy, like, lovely divorce of two people. Just, we both grew a lot together, and we went our separate ways. And when we went our separate ways, I just went back to training. I went back to the love of my life. I went back to golf and competing and just gambling like small and just enjoying my time. And I realized because of all of this work I had with him in the clinic that I could use my breath
Mhm.
sequence to calm my nervous system. So when COVID hit, everybody was, confused. I got a country club membership with my roommates at the time, and I played a shit ton of golf, and I figured out that my breath routine was magic. And I started playing the best golf of my life. And I went back to teaching breath work, and I realized, like, wow, there's this combination. When we use this singer's protocol, it's actually ideal for athletes. And in my training, I was sprint training, and I hurt my foot.
Mhm.
And I went to my naturopathic doctor, and he said, "Hey, you don't have a foot problem, you have a fascia problem." So I looked into all of the fascia release programs, and nothing would work with my training schedule. Everything really required downtime, rolfing, acupuncture, nothing I could really box into a competitive schedule. So I went on a deep dive. I took in, I bought every textbook on the subject matter, and I made my own sequence, which is what athletes do. High-end athletes build sequences so that they can make the most out of their training time compared to every other athlete they're competing against. So I just did what I always do, and so I made a fascia flow sequence that worked with my body for the foot
Mhm.
issue that I had. And in 2 weeks, my 30-year-old hip click that I've had since I was walking went away. So at 34 now, I have returned my body to its spring-loaded nature that I had in my early 20s, that I thought was gone forever, that every doctor I went to said, you're going to need a cortisone shot, you're going to need hip surgery, you're just getting older. And now I'm at a point where I don't think that our tissues need to age the way that we currently think they do. I think that a lot of the immobility that we feel as people age, particularly athletes, it's dehydrated tissue. And when we follow 8 rules, we can rehydrate our tissue. So it's not just water going in, it's water flushing through the tubes of the body. So when I combine these two sequences, there was a huge alteration in my clients. I mean, the brain waves changed, the breath work became more powerful, the fascia work became more powerful, and it kind of unlocked this new level. So I've been lecturing for the last part of 2.5 years about it, and how when we combine these two sequences, how we're really basing the inputs, we are retraining the main inputs of the body that
Mhm.
control heart rate and brain waves. So it's the body now has become just a river of fluids, and it's in the rhythm of these river of fluids that we experience resonation, that we can experience this, spastic, tight level of consciousness, or expanded, relaxed level of awareness and being.
Can you explain what those tubules are that you were talking about?
Absolutely. So, fascia has been really explained more like a piece of plastic, and even in the
Oh, I love your
textbooks,
examples. So,
yeah, I'm ready.
so happy you
So,
brought them.
yeah, always, always. So when I started opening up the textbooks and learning about
Mhm.
fascia, it was described as a connective tissue that's a lot like plastic wrap. And the interesting thing about it, Leah, is when I cut, like, if we study a tree, like one of these trees here,
Mhm.
we wouldn't like chop the tree down and then slice it into bits and then stare at the little bits and be like, oh, it needs hydration. We would look at it holistically, right? So when I started getting into the textbooks, what they were looking at is pieces of the body. And so they were saying, okay, well, this fascia layer looks like a piece of plastic. And all I kept seeing was more geometry. I, in the living tissue, and that's been the big jump, is our ability, our instruments, our medical instruments have improved significantly in the last decade compared to what we had before. So, as I was looking at the fascia pictures, I'm an artist. Like, this is geometry, folks. Like they're in inside of the geometry, it's not just flat. And that's how we're being presented it. Like as an athlete, doctor to athlete, doctor would describe it as it's plastic wrap. Now, as an athlete looking at cadavers, I don't see plastic wrap. I see this is a sponge. So this is a loofah that grew from nature. It's one connective tissue that serves as a scaffolding. And this is what our fascia is. And when we look at a dead body, right? Because now in order to get into fascia, I got to get into the cadaver images, which has been like a whole explosion in my brain. Like I remember the first one I watched, I was like, wow, these are, as an athlete, I think it's very enlightening to look at what a dead body looks like.
It is.
And it's not for everybody, for sure. But the difference between arteries and veins, I was fascinated to learn this, is veins collapse. So like as the blood is drained and the fluids are drained out of the body, everything can kind of squish down. We are built as a collapsing mechanism. Our fascia is built to collapse and open. So the fascia is made of a triple helix collagen fiber network. All of that means triple helix, meaning that there's 3 strands that wrap together. That creates a tube. Now it's a nanotubular. It's super small. And by itself, we could bend it no problem. But if we had 50 of them, they'd be pretty strong, a lot like this. So what I'm trying to explain to people is that fascia is the scaffolding for everything in your body. It's what's holding your organs in place. It's what's holding your eyeballs in place. It's what's holding your brain in place. And inside of the fascia, there is a fluid that's running through these nanotubules. Doctors around the world are arguing about what that fluid is. But while they argue, there's also a fluid outside of the fascia that allows all of these different tubulars to move over each other. And if I soak this in water, this would show us the elastic nature that a sponge has. But when it gets dehydrated, like even now, you can like hear it brittly, kind of like dry and cakey. And that's, to me, aging. Aging isn't the amount of years that you've lived. Aging is the compressibility and expansion of your tissues. It's how palpable, how hydrated is everything, how fluid is everything. Because as we drink our coffee, as we get exposed to toxicity, those things enter our system and they get lodged and stored. So what I'm trying to show people is that, like, if I could go back in time, I would have, as an athlete, I would have spent, instead of 50% training and 50% stretching, I would have done 50% training, 25% stretching, and 25% active recovery for my fascia, which could have looked like sauna, could have looked like my fascia flow program. It could look like super deep tissue massages with a therapist that understands hyaluronic acid. It could look like salt bath soaks. But wow, if I could go back in time and add into my training regimen all of these nourishing things that would have taken care of the tissues that hold the muscles into place, I would have had less downtime, better endurance, and more muscle growth and more strength. So
Yes.
I see the athletic sequence being very off. And even if people aren't an athlete, as we age, if we don't take care of the tissues, it's only a matter of time before our knees end up feeling it. Because the foot is so extraordinarily built. We have 26 bones in the feet. And what makes my technique a lot different than others is I am all about ground up. Like, I don't really care what's going on in your upper body, because what I've seen is that the upper body is simply a mirror. It's a reflection. 80% of the time, it is just a reflection of what's happening in the lower body. And if the pinky toes go offline, if the fascia is getting jammed up here because we've been in high heel shoes for so much, it's only a matter of time before the toes get weak. We walk on the outside or the inside lines of the foot and we stress out the knee, because there's these major strings. We have 9 major strings moving from the bottom of the foot to the head. at the head, it turns into 26 different insertions. So it's like I'm worried about the flow of the fascia everywhere, but specifically the tension that happens on the major fascia bands on the left versus the right is going to determine our long term joint health. So if we don't want to be in a cane or a walker, and it's cute because so you're in Italy, I'm in America. And I live in a place with a bunch of elderly. Like in South Florida,
Mm.
we just, it's mostly older people, mostly people over 65 here. And so they all go to Europe for this summer trip. They do, they all do. And they'll be fine here because we have sidewalks. Like this
Yes.
place is just flat land paved.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Disney World. But you guys have cobblestones.
True.
So my some of my clients that go over there, they train so that they don't have to use a cane in Italy. They literally train so that they can be cane free on an uneven surface, which requires good toe flexion and good toe dexterity. If I have a cute little old lady with the most cute shoes ever and she has weak toes, she's going to have to use a walker or a cane because she has no toe dexterity here to create balance for her on an uneven surface.
But I see the same thing between city people and village people. Or like, for example, I'm in the mountains, so there's like paths sometimes, and you go for a walk that's not flat, but you go up and down and kind of like not straight.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's athletes, many athletes in the city, but just it's more obvious in the children. So the let's call it the village kids will have better proprioception compared to the city kids because there's small challenges
Yep.
every day that the other ones don't have. So you need to kind of like train for that to compensate for what the others
There's a
like have
lot of
naturally.
really elite athletes that grew up with no shoes for a particular period of time. And there's a coach out in New York, and we were just having a conversation. He's a fascia
Mm-hmm.
driven coach. And I was telling him, I'm like, what's the best pair of shoes that we can recommend to our athletes? Because it's a constant conversation. And he's like, honestly, Brooke, he's like, we have to have the bone be able to feel the ground. And some of the best athletes, like, just were raised with no shoes. Like, the concept that we can go through our developing years with as minimal a shoe as possible for maximum toe dexterity and feeling of the fascia on the bone, of that, making our bone density stronger. These big fat rubber soles, they really soften all of the inputs into the body. That's a beautiful thing that you're notating between the village kids. The more the more athletic, like if I had to gamble on the team, the village kids versus the city kids, it'd probably be the villagers. It's a good note.
Also, please go on about the feet and the fascia.
The feet are just super overlooked. Like I love giving people this test when they meet
Mm-hmm.
me and they're like, I don't know if I need fascia. And I'm looking at them and it's like, you're wearing a knee brace. Like, you need me.
Mm.
You don't know it, but you need me. What I tell people to do is take off their shoes and then try to stretch their toes. And a lot of people have, like
Mm-hmm.
this pinky toe can't move. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a big deal. We need the pinky toe and the big toes to move outward. The more outward we can get them to move, these will start to come online.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're like clamped together, we have to make space first. And the way that I teach people how to do this is with a ball.
Mm.
So,
Great.
I mean, I love me a good massage, but when I started doing my fascia training, I needed something 5 days a week that could start to gently chip away at all the damage I did. So, I'm trying to remove the therapist. I'm trying to just get you with you and build your internal awareness of where tension has accumulated, and then being more aware of our posture, maybe why that stagnation has accumulated there. Like in our sitting posture right now, because most people sit, I know that there's a fascia adhesion issue on the upper part of the calf,
Mm-hmm.
lower part of the hamstring, and upper part of the quad, because that's where these little tubes have been kinked the most.
Right,
So that's
right.
where stagnation is going to happen. So developing a routine that's like brushing our teeth, that we're able to brush from the bottom out, you know what I mean? Like we're not
Mm-hmm.
stopping midway. And I have a problem with fascia release techniques that start at pain spots or starts midway through the body. And it's a philosophy difference. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of people who have had good results starting at the midsection of the spine. Because I'm a golfer, because everything I've learned as an athlete has come from ground force reaction, I don't think that's the best way to make long lasting change. It's kind of like, I love a good chiropractor who can say everything is spine first, but then that patient is going to get off the table and walk. And their walking gait, their foot dexterity is going to determine how the tension within those major fascia bands are going to move, pump, and pull the spine. So I don't think that any one thing has it figured out. I
Mm-hmm.
think that we need to train our breath. We need to train a good breath shape in order to keep our rhythms open and flowing. That's imperative to fascia, is to keep a good pump going through the cerebral spinal fluid, to keep a good rhythm going through all of the tubes, to stay vasodilated in your own way. And then we need to open where there was damage, because when we have an injury, we have a tear, what happens is it slices
Mm-hmm.
and then it fills in with this, like, I almost look at it like a piece of adhesive, like a piece of glue that staples the body back together. And then when we properly recover this, the nerves can re-innervate through the scar tissue,
Mm-hmm.
and then they kind of slowly take away the scar tissue and rebuild in the cells. Well, if someone has an area that's been severe, like the inner thigh, for
Mm-hmm.
instance, an area that most of us don't really train, don't really stretch, don't really massage. Okay.
Yes, I agree with
A
everything.
lot of, yeah. So a lot of people actually have a sense of neuropathy and loose fascia. And that I see a huge gap in the fascia conversation, because a lot of fascia programs, mine included, Fascia Flow, really focuses on the densification and how to remove densification. Rolfing does the same. But there is something called loose fascia. And in my program, when we have loose fascia, there's a way to identify it. Then there's a way to innervate it so that we create flow and function again. And we're asking the nerves to kind of tighten back up. And like, it's like, look alive, body. And it happens like if you gain weight and then lose weight, there's this stretching out that happens within the fascia and then the collapsing. So
Oh,
having a
the
way,
fat cells would also be in between the fascia, and the fascia would
so it
adapt,
stretches it
right?
out. Yes.
Oh, I
So,
never
but
thought about that.
it can loosen. It's
Mm-hmm.
very overlooked. Like this to me is a
Mm-hmm.
fantastic model of really looking at how many tubes are within the body. So the first time I ever saw a cadaver around the hip, I was blown away. Like everybody thinks they have sciatica pain. And it's like, no, baby, there's just a lot of stagnation that can happen within the hips. And anytime stagnation builds up, it's going to create pressure. And then that pressure is going to create tension on the nerves that are right there. So people think they have sciatica issues, and I think they have a flow problem. And there's so many men out there with low back issues. And then the rates for prostate cancer is huge for men, prostate issues. And if you think about the bottom of the hips and how the
Mm-hmm.
hips need to flush all of those fluids that are coming through the tubes,
Oh,
it's all through the front and
interesting.
back of the
Yeah,
hips.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So if
yeah.
somebody's sitting on their butt, right? So you have all of the tubes smashed from the backside. Then on the front side, everything is bent. So if somebody's sitting in their car for 8 hours, how is the flow of fluids getting through the hips and down? I don't think we have a sciatica problem and a low back problem. I think that we have a congestion of fluids at the base of the hips that builds up and turns into whatever, because stagnation in the body can turn into cancer, it can turn into parasites, there is no void in here.
Mm, yeah, yeah,
If it's
yeah, yeah.
stagnant, something will eat it, something will,
Yeah.
happen to it, it'll kind of putrefy or mutilate itself. So the coolest part about this work, Leah, is like I'm teaching people the breath and I'm teaching people how to increase circulation, and so many problems are going away. like way more than like I'm just setting out to make people breathe better, make athletes function better. Like I'm like, you guys, joint pain could be an option now. That was big. But now skin problems are going away. Now
Amazing.
the skin all over their body is changing because they are flushing the lymphatics better than they ever had because the breath is better and there's less stagnation and they're more aware. And to me, awareness is half the battle because somebody would rather, like a lot of people would rather a massage therapist come in and do the work for
Mm-hmm.
them. And the issue that I have with that is A, you know your body more than anything. And when a massage therapist feels into you for the first time, they're going to feel all the sticking points, right? But only you are the one that knows which of the sticking point is the source. So it's like we can feel into the body and it's like, oh, okay, it's, you know, it's stuck here, 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 here. Well, it's a spider web. So the
Mm-hmm.
spots are not separate from each other. So
True,
as
true,
this, let's
yes.
just say this balls up, right? If this stays here for years and years, it's going to start to create an opening. Just like if I were to take your favorite pair of pants
Mm-hmm.
and ball it up in an area and like put a hair tie on it and it's like, okay, just wear it like this. There's
Yeah.
going to be a hole that starts on the opposite side. So if we go back to that loose fascia
Mm-hmm.
conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lot of people, if this is the leg, right? This is, let's say this is the front of the leg, and this is our inner thigh,
Mm-hmm.
right? A lot of people have loose fascia on the inner thigh.
Mm-hmm.
Totally normal because we don't really train it and we don't really train our fascia. Now, the lateral band, which is on
Mm-hmm.
the outside upper leg, this is normally incredibly tight, like made of concrete for anybody over the age of 20. And it's from our sitting posture and it's
Mm-hmm.
from walking in shoes on the outside lines of our feet. So as the outside part of our leg gets really tight, it pulls on this side of the leg over time.
Of
So a
course,
massage
yes.
therapist is going to sit there and kind of feel into the spots, but only you can really trace like, it's electrical right here is where everything has collapsed. And then from this spot, if we release this spot, this tension goes away and then this changes. But a massage therapist won't be able to feel with the awareness that you have of what's happening all the way to the bone. So it's, when people start training with me, they get a half inch underneath. They're like, wow, this is life changing. And I'm like, you just wait. You just wait till you get down to the bone because there's so much. Like the leg itself, we have 26 bones in the
Mm-hmm.
feet. We only have 4 bones in the whole leg. So this should be all fluid and moving. And it's developing the relationship to the tension that builds up, at the top part of the calf and to the outside of the shin. And as we take care of these things, the whole body changes. The tension within our whole skeleton is different.
When you say go down, reach the bone, do you mean that you've worked through all the layers of the fascia until you reach the bone?
So this is the femur, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is our only bone in the upper leg other than like the kneecap, if you want to include the kneecap. And a lot of people are dealing with like 4 to 6 inches of juicy tissue on top of this. But when we start doing the fascia flow, just during the warm up alone, they start to identify spots and they think it's bone.
Because
And
it's
it,
so
and
hard.
and then I have to show them the body and I'm like, okay, that's not your bone. And if it feels like bone, we really need to break that up because what that's showing us is there's a high degree of tension in that area of the body and that asymmetry. Because, like, you can have, like, in my body, my right leg had 3 tears in it. So my right leg was so collapsed compared to my left leg.
Yes.
So my right hip was in chronic inflammation
Mm.
because I was dealing with, and no matter how much I went to the chiropractor,
It wouldn't
nobody was
stay.
looking at nobody was looking at the major tension that had built up in the right hand side.
I bet so many athletes have that. Like, so many athletes just go, 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 and they try to recover. But, like you said, many times as an athlete, you have to research yourself, find out, use your creativity, and like figure out
Even
your
at a
own
high end,
problems.
even at the highest end of professional athletics, we really have not increased our recovery. We've gone backwards. Like if you compare the MLB, like the
Backwards.
baseball pitchers,
Yeah.
yeah, like from pre 80s, pre like
Oh.
icing everything,
Mm-hmm.
they were able to do more games
Mm-hmm.
than we are currently. So like our athletes, based on our protocols
Mm-hmm.
in America at least, like I know a little bit about how the World Cup soccer players are rehabbing. It's the same, and
Oh.
I know about how the dancers rehab around the world. It's all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Golfers are the same. If you get injured on the field, every PT is putting you through the same recovery protocol, and it's been broken. It's been broken for 50 years. And it's broken because we're looking at and we're fighting inflammation instead of working with inflammation and allowing inflammation to be the healing guide. And I think it's because we're not willing to be in pain. We're not willing to grow our self awareness. We're not willing to put in the proactive recovery tools, which is all I am all about. We recover
Mm-hmm.
fastest when we plan for injury. So we
Mm,
plan
smart.
for injury by making the fascia as fluid as possible. Because if you can walk on the outside of your ankles, on the inside of your ankles, you're going to be less prone to having a twisted ankle if you're out there. But that's a lot of bones to stabilize. I mean, there's a lot of different foot exercises we can do in order to stabilize all these.
It is.
So it's a system that I am so happy to speak from a place of experience because the system gave up on me. By the time I was 30, the PTs were just saying, you're getting older. You're going to have to train less hard. And that's every athlete is given up on. Like
Yes.
a lot
Yeah.
like
Yes.
we train for arthritis. Like it was the joke when I was in D1 athletics, we would be weight training and then I remember being around a couple guys who also turned into coaches and I'm just like this can't be good for us and he's like absolutely not. Like this is all going to give us arthritis by the time we're 30. Like this is not the way to train. Yet it was the way that at a high-end program was still being taught and that's what I think our generation is meant to break. We're meant to, it's like we did good. There's gyms everywhere. People are focused on health, but the classical way of lifting, the classical way to take care of the joints is completely broken.
Do you think partially it is because as an athlete, when you're like so involved in the world, it's like all of your world?
Oh, yeah.
Do you?
Nothing exists for me like that little white ball. It was my life.
I
Yeah.
know. I used to be an athlete too at one point. Do you think partially it is because like searching for a new way to train, you'd kind of have to give up like yourself a little bit, or like at least your concept of yourself, because you're spending so many hours doing and striving and training, practicing and thinking, and like everything just revolves around like the achievement, right? Do you think there's like it's hard to admit that you made a mistake while you're in it?
I think that most athletes trust their coach.
True, true. There's
I
like
think that
like the
in
coaches
the
are
be
like God, like
yeah,
they're
so
like parents. Like, yes, you
yes,
tell
oh,
me it's good.
absolutely. My coach lives in my head. She's been gone for 8 years. She lives in my head rent free. So
True, true, true.
I think that as an athlete, when you're going through it, you are being mentored. So it's like when you have an injury, you go to your PT, like your assigned PT. If you have a strength training issue, you go to your assigned strength training coach. Um, and then you have your tournament coach. And for me, I had a tournament coach, a putting coach, a swing coach.
Wow.
I mean, it was amazing. Like I had a mentor for everything I needed. I had a tutor for my classes that I would miss when I was traveling.
Amazing.
So you live in trust because
It's
like
true.
these people obviously know what's good for you. And it's when I got like my eighth
Hmm.
of like, you're just going to need a shot. And it was like, no, dude, no, this can't, like, there's no way that all you have for me is ice and stem. I
Yeah.
refuse. And that was when I called my doctor friends. And thankfully, I've been smart. Like, I'm smarter than a lot of athletes. Like, I love me my knuckle draggers. I love the brutes. Like, I really do. But I was unwilling to receive that information. And I'm sure part of it was because my ex-husband was a doctor. So I was around a way of thinking that allowed me to question the authority. It allowed me to say, okay, like, if I have chronic inflammation in this
Mm-hmm.
spot, what's building it up? If it's not coming from my spine, where is it really coming from? How can I trace that back? Now, how can I build a vocabulary for what I'm tracing? Now, what do I need to do to release this inflammation in a way that's not going to rip, tear, and shear? So it was like a line of questioning
Really
that
smart. Yeah.
brought me into the rabbit hole. And it's just the question that really unlocked it for me was, how do I release the stagnation
Mm-hmm.
without ripping, tearing, or shearing the fascia? And that was the question that led me into like sleep. I think it took me about a month of really deep research of just kind of obsessively
It's
figuring
really
out, because I
quick. You had.
my foot hurt. My foot hurt a lot. And I don't have a husband, I don't have a kid. Like, I have my animals. My parents live next door. So I live with this layer of freedom
Mm.
where I can train. And at that point, like, I was gambling to make money. Like, it was really fun. There's so much golf in Florida that, like, you can go and pick up a game on a Thursday night and just, make a couple grand if you believe in yourself and you know how to shit talk. It's an amazing place to live. So I had the time. I had the time to just lean into how the hell am I going to train indefinitely, because you can't pull the athlete out of me. Like, I want to be an 85-year-old like gymnastic woman that's just like
Yeah.
shredded.
Oh, I'm all for it. At 80,
Yeah.
85, doing gymnastics, and then at 120, I don't know.
What a great time
Having a
though,
great time.
dancing. Yes. Yeah, I want to make it look so fun. Like, I think it's up to us to learn how to live in our bodies graciously. And I think that our preceding generation abused their bodies with in convenience and in luxury and in all of the things. And then now our generation is here to find the blend of how do we live long, like rich, wealthy lives. Like, I see health as wealth. So I feel
It
like a
is, it
very
is.
rich woman. I feel like even when I have like wrinkles on my face, I'm just like, there's muscles in my face and like I'm going to learn how to work them out really good. And there's stagnation within the fascia of the face and like learning how to massage that out and create flow. It's like we're just going to learn how to be better because there's a better way to move forward.
There is. I'm torn between two questions. You choose which one you prefer. Because question number one is either you can answer it personally or generally, whichever one is you prefer. And that is, do you love your body? And if yes or no, how you'd know that? Or the other question would be,
Oh, let's do both. I love that
okay,
question.
you want to go with that one first? Sure.
Yeah, I do love my body
Hmm.
and I love it through action. So I love it through devotion. So the way that I tell my body I love it is like by hydrating, by spending time outside, by make sure I take in the sunshine, by working on my breath, by detoxing my lungs, which I think is really overlooked and important to do.
Yeah, never heard
Um,
about it until you talked about it.
yeah. Oh my goodness. I can feel it now when I like am out with my friends and we're around like cigarettes or smoke. Like when I do my breath the next day, I feel like I get it out of my body. And I'm just like, oh, okay, good. Now I can
Finally.
breathe. But I feel like people deal with this like buildup of lymphatic circulation issue because of the air, just, being around those environments. But learning to love my body, I think that if I could go back in time, right? Because like I'm 34 now and
Mm.
my body has gone through a lot of different changes and I feel stronger and more flexible than ever in my body now. I have devoted my training to being functional.
Mm.
And when I was younger, I definitely wanted to work out to look a certain way. And what I figured out through time is that if I just go and work out with people that have the body types that I want,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
so making friends, like that whole jealous thing that women have, if you can just convert jealousy to inspiration, you are literally hanging out with your new group of friends. Because it's in like getting into someone who is doing what you want to do, you find that they are not at the goal that they set for themselves. And you find that it's way more fun to think about a functional movement. So, like hitting a golf ball really hard and far is a different way to train than trying to get a six pack. Like trying to belt out a note as loud as you possibly can to feel the insides of your mightiness is very different than just breath training
Mm.
to feel like a certain way for 2 minutes. Because there's a sense of confidence that you gain through the execution, right? So, like learning how to do a handstand will also teach it will give you great shoulders, great triceps, great biceps, great wrist control, but it also just makes you feel cool. Like it is a self-perpetuating, like you want to practice it because when you nail it, it's so exciting and it takes a while. So, to me, like I'm in love with what my body can do.
Mm.
And my body is going to change shape and form every month. Like for 2 weeks out of the month, I feel like my body looks one way. And for 2 weeks out of the month, my body looks another way.
So true.
And we're all that. So instead of being infatuated with what my body looks like today,
Mm-hmm.
I'm always trying to invest in like the long-term health of my skin
Mm.
and the long-term health of my tissues and the long-term health of my lung field, because from that energy is built. And then it's easy, you to push hard at a workout, it for me is always easiest if I'm with my friends. So like I love group training. I love training with a coach. And like as much as I train alone at home, I really look forward to having a coach yell at me, and push me harder down a direction to make me do something I didn't think I could. So I really look at the loving of my body as it's developed.
Mm.
Before I used to I wanted to make my body look a certain way, and now I want to make my body do certain things.
Mm.
And it's a lot more playful. It's a lot more, and then to be willing to invest in yourself and get a coach. Like I'm a coach, but I believe in coaches.
Oh, I love it
Like
too. Yeah,
yeah,
amazing.
I to exist with a coach, like you want to level up your life, get a fucking coach.
True. So true.
And like get one that's doing what you want to do. I
Yes.
think that's the real trick of finding it, like because if they're walking the walk, they're going to take you down the path. And even like if it's not the same path as yours, there's so much to derive from that. So what a beautiful question. Like to me, learning to love the body, right? Because it was
Oh,
learned,
yeah.
is a devotion to my skin and my
Mm-hmm.
tissues and my breath. And how those fluctuate in time, I'm going to embrace. But I am devoted to like loving on those things because those are the major inputs of everything I get to exude and radiate on the outside.
I love it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Thanks for that. That was a good question. I liked that one.
You know, I came up with this question because when I was watching your podcast interviews, you always talked about like, oh, like you ask your, I don't know, your nostril to open, or does he want to open? And you ask your, I don't know what you said, like your diaphragm to go deeper. Does he want to go deeper? And it's like, ah, this sounds like respect, you know?
Yes. That's the body is trying to communicate through tension, and it's using the tension to to it's I should say it's listening to the tension and giving it what it needs to unlock. And it's fun to think about like the mental state of people.
Yes.
It's like how much of the physical tension turns into mental tension, and how much does mental tension turn into physical tension. So like one of the I love this rule. One of the women who are teaching like the face exercises programs, which
Mm-hmm.
I'm very into and interested in. I'm 34, so like my face is starting to change, and I would really love
I
to set
I do them
a
too.
new examples. Yeah. So I'm interested. What you guys got is 44, 43 muscles in the face. Like we can train them. That sounds amazing. And one of them, she's like, the first rule of thumb is learning how to not hold tension in your jaw and in your lips. And
Mm.
I can't believe how much awareness that little phrase has brought me. Like when I'm doing the dishes and I'm into my tongue position, I'm like always training where my tongue should be.
Mm.
But by gaining this extra set of awareness of relaxing the jaw and relaxing the lips has been helpful. And I think it makes my face look more feminine when I'm like, in a meeting just like this. My business partner like lives away from me, so like we meet often, and I'll just be sitting here like full tense lips, full tense jaw, like and then I'll catch myself out of the eye, and it's like, okay, this is exactly what we're not training for. And it's a new awareness, and so I do my
Yeah.
workout routines. And I think I look all cute in video because what I'm doing is rather difficult. And then I look at my face and I'm just like, even in a worse situation. And I'm like, wow, this is a whole nother set of learning to exude relaxation, you know, while having whatever degree of mental tension at the same time. It's funny.
It is difficult to make those like little videos and to know how you're talking and your expression and where you're looking and remembering what you want to say and saying it properly. It's a lot going. It's like,
Kind of like doing it as happy as possible. I feel like
smart
if I'm
choice.
filming in happiness, something's gonna be good, whether it's hilarious or it makes any sense. Or so I like to set up my camera with all my props, which is like has to be from a distance hysterical because I just like walk out of my house with all of like pieces of bone and sponge and whatever. And then I film from like one angle for 5 minutes, and then I'll set up my camera elsewhere, and then I try again. And I just capture the stutters, the confused moments, the like my mom walking out of her house and me saying good morning. Like I just allow it to be what it is. And then I kind of edit and mash those clips.
Mm.
And it's been a learning because I'm a performer. Like the first 10 months of talking about this information, I was in front of a crowd. So I thought I was hilarious. I'm just like, I put on a 2 hour science lecture that makes people laugh their ass off. When I started to film, it was very different. Cause I'm like, the camera doesn't laugh at your jokes. It doesn't give me any feedback. Like, I think
Sure.
I'm funny, but like now I'm cussing and I had to like reel that in a little bit. Cause in my live shows, like I would just,
It comes
I would
across a
use
little bit
drug.
different, yeah.
Yeah, I would use drugs as an example. Like you can like read your crowd and like online you can't really do the same thing. So it's been a learning. But wow, it's as the audience has grown, there has been more insecurity of sending it when you're
Oh,
feeling
really?
silly as hell. Yeah, because I am silly. And so, when you cross a certain threshold, you're just like, yo, am I okay with being this silly in front of this many people? And it's always a good move. I think that if it makes you a little bit nervous, you're doing it right. If it's not making you a little nervous, you're playing it really fucking safe. So
True,
there's
true.
that fine line there where it's like, if it's not a little bit weird for you, it's probably not going to set off any bells in someone else anyway, you know?
True, true. You gotta have some guts to be online.
Yeah, sometimes I erase it, like if it doesn't pop, and then like, all right, let's just take that one out. I've done it a few times where I'm like, I was unsure about that anyway.
How about one more question, or do you need to go? You let me know. Because
I
we're
can do one
already
more
over the
question.
hour. Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
last question. um, the resonance in the body. I heard you talk about that a lot. So, um, I'm not sure how to ask the question. I've seen you compare the body to an instrument and the rhythms in the body and the fluids and the
How have you ever played a bell before?
bell like a
Yeah.
ding. Like
I'm
those
gonna
kind of
go,
bell?
hold on. I'm
Yeah.
gonna show you something.
Okay.
Okay, so I play like 7 or 8 instruments depending on how much you want to argue. I play the tempura, but when you play instruments, there's just so much overlap.
Mhm.
There is so much similarity from one instrument to the other, because you're dealing with like how you strike something, and then the input that strike creates, like based on how hard or soft or whatever, like on a stringed instrument, on a piano, on whatever, and then the vibration, right? So I'm dealing with an instrument that needs to be tuned for the
Mhm.
vibration or not, right? So this is a Tibetan bowl. This is made of 8 different alloys, and it
Mhm.
is hammered to produce F sharp. And the only thing that gets this bowl to resonate an
Mhm.
F sharp is by striking it. So
Mhm.
it needs an input, right? And then that input creates a vibration effect that's captured in a particular shape,
Mhm.
right? So in this case,
The
a
ball.
bowl, to resonate the sound, right? So you have an input and then you have a container
Mhm.
that creates resonation. And it's the same for every single instrument. There's an
Mhm.
input and then there's a container that the sound can move through. Our body is the same way. The input is
Mhm.
our breath,
Mhm.
and the vibration is determined by the tension over the fascia strings.
Mhm.
So when I say there's a resonation, it is because like truly at the core of my work, like I'm teaching people how to breathe well, I'm teaching them how to take care of their fascia. But it's because I'm trying to get the next generation into a brainwave state called
Mhm.
gamma.
Mhm.
Gamma is the enlightened brainwave state. It is where our most creative solutions come from. It is the area of sincere, miraculous, inventive thought. There is no limit within gamma. It is a fusion of everything that is in your mind that could be cross referenced. It's the brainwave that we should be seeking constantly. So, in my theory, I believe that we can maintain gamma brainwave states when we have a breath rate, so an input, right,
Mhm.
at less than 4 breaths a minute
Mhm.
with free flow within our fascia. Because that, if we look at the body as a radio tower, as an instrument, right? The fascia itself makes up the collagen scaffolding that holds all of our nerves, all of our circulation processes. So if this is open and flowing, the container that we are doesn't have restrictions or stagnations in it, right? Then the input, if it's 4 breaths a minute, that is going to sync with our heart rate.
Mhm.
Okay, because your
Mhm.
breath rate determines your heart rate. Your heart rate and your breath rate are going to contribute to your brain waves. It's going to help lock the nervous system either in a state of stress or a state of relaxation. So at 4 breaths a minute, we're pulling the body into a state of relaxation. We're pulling the heart rate into a very particular restful position. And then if our fascia is open, then we have the ability to resonate longer durations of times in these playful states of mind. Now, the reason why I picked 4 breaths a minute
Mhm.
is because there is a correlation between our breath rate and our
Mhm.
brain waves. So the
Mhm.
standard resting breath rate is 15 to 25 breaths a minute.
Mhm.
That's when you're not moving, right? The
Like laying
standard,
down, doing nothing.
just sitting, yeah,
Okay.
watching TV,
Sure.
you're at 15 to 25. The standard resting brainwave, when
Mhm.
we are like our eyes are open, we're interacting with each other, is called beta brainwaves, and it's 16 to 30 hertz.
Mhm.
So you can see how there's like almost a little bit of a marriage there. So when we drop the breath rate to 4, we have an easier time accessing something called theta brainwaves, which is 4 to 7 hertz. Now, there is a very understudied bridge in
Mhm.
our brainwave frequencies. It's called the theta gamma sync. And theta, it's like right where we are right now, we're in beta. We're
Mhm.
chill, we're in low beta mode. If we were to close our eyes right now and go into a meditation together, and I was like, picture yourself walking through your favorite garden, that is going to involve something called alpha brainwaves,
Mhm.
and it's 8 to 15 hertz. That's standard meditation, is alpha brainwave stuff. And we're lit up, like our occipital lobe in the back is very lit up, very present. if we can slip past language, so there's no language being used, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not telling you to picture anything, and we just fall into this restful state of mind of theta, that's where we were as children. That's where our neurons, our brain, can crossfire different information. So it's where we've invented castles in the sky as kids, or like we turned our tree fort into a castle and we were fighting off whatever. Those things are all part of theta. So when I talk about resonation,
Mm-hmm.
the body is a resonant chamber. And
Mm-hmm.
depending on how we use the inputs of breath
Mm-hmm.
and how our fascia tension is, the instrument that we live our life will play. But if we balance our breath rate and we open our fascia flow, I think that there is an entire other place of state of mind that we can exist with ourselves and the things outside of ourselves.
Amazing.
I can send you a freebie for your audience so that they can get some fascia tips. But if anybody's interested in taking a free fascia test, I have it there on my website at musicalbreathwork.com.
Amazing.
Breath and fascia test just for free so they can get an idea of where they are, what their lung capacity is like, how their toe dexterity is. And it's fun. You could do it with your whole family.
Amazing. Yes, I will put those links in the description down below. And you're also on Instagram, right? And are you on TikTok too?
Yes, at
Amazing.
Musical Breathwork. I'm on TikTok and I'm on YouTube.
Amazing. YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and your website. I'm gonna link everything down below.
Yes,
Thank you for coming on.
perfect. Thank you. I appreciate you.